The warehouse smelled like rust and desperation. I stood on a platform lit by a single overhead bulb, my wrists bound loosely with silk rope, decorative, not functional. They wanted me to look willing, compliant, as if I'd chosen this. Below me, shadows shifted. Men in tailored suits sat in rows of folding chairs, their faces obscured by smoke and dim light. I couldn't see their eyes, but I felt them crawling over my skin like insects. My father had called it a temporary arrangement, a loan repayment. He'd said it with the same casual tone he used when discussing the weather, his hands shaking as he poured himself another drink. 3 days later, 2 men in black coats appeared at our apartment door. They didn't ask. They didn't explain. They simply took me. Now I was here. Lot 17. A voice announced from somewhere in the darkness. 22 years old. University educated. No prior debts beyond the father's obligation. My stomach turned. They were describing me like livestock. A man in the front row raised his hand. Another followed. The auctioneer's voice rose, numbers climbing higher than I could comprehend. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. Then the room went silent. A figure stood at the back of the warehouse, framed by the open doorway. The streetlight behind him turned his silhouette into something sharp and predatory. He didn't raise his hand. He didn't speak. He simply walked forward, and the crowd parted like water. The air changed when he entered the light. He was younger than I expected, mid-30s, maybe with dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. His suit was black and perfectly tailored, the kind that cost more than my father's debts combined. But it was his eyes that stopped my breath. Cold, gray, utterly devoid of mercy. He stopped at the base of the platform and looked up at me. I wanted to look away. I couldn't. 5 million, he said. His voice was low, controlled, laced with an accent I couldn't place. European, maybe. Old money. The auctioneer stuttered. The current bid is at 5 million, he repeated, not bothering to look at the man. His eyes stayed locked on mine. Cash. Tonight. Silence blanketed the warehouse. No one dared counter. No one even breathed. The auctioneer cleared his throat. Sold. The word landed like a guillotine. 2 guards appeared beside me, cutting the silk ropes from my wrists. My legs felt like water as they guided me down the steps. The man, my buyer, I realized with nauseating clarity, didn't move. He waited, hands in his pockets, utterly still. When I reached him, he extended one hand. I stared at it. Strong fingers, no rings. A thin white scar across his knuckles. Come, he said quietly. It wasn't a request. I placed my trembling hand in his, and his fingers closed around mine firm, warm, inescapable. He led me through the warehouse without looking back, past rows of silent men who watched us leave like we were ghosts. Outside, rain misted the empty street. A black car idled at the curb, sleek and expensive. A driver stood beside it, his face blank. The man opened the rear door himself. Get in. I hesitated. This was it. The moment I crossed a threshold I could never uncross. His gray eyes met mine again, and something flickered in their depths. Not kindness, not pity, something darker, more complicated. You can run, he said softly, but you won't make it 3 blocks. Your father's creditors are everywhere. At least with me, you'll be alive tomorrow. The truth of it settled over me like ash. I climbed into the car. He slid in beside me, and the door closed with a soft click. The interior smelled like leather and cedar. The driver pulled away from the curb without a word, and the warehouse disappeared behind us. I pressed myself against the opposite door, putting as much distance between us as possible. My pulse hammered in my throat. What's your name? He asked, his voice cutting through the silence. I swallowed. Elena. He repeated it slowly, as if testing the weight of it. Then he leaned back against the seat, his gaze drifting to the rain-streaked window. I'm Alessio Marchetti. The name meant nothing to me. But the way he said it with quiet, absolute authority told me it should. Where are you taking me? My voice came out smaller than I wanted. Home. Who's home? He turned his head, and the city lights sliding across his face made him look almost human. Almost. Mine. The word wrapped around me like chains. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to throw myself from the moving car. But exhaustion weighed me down, heavy and suffocating. I'd spent 3 days locked in a basement, wondering if I'd live to see another sunrise. Now I was sitting beside a stranger who'd bought me like property, heading toward an unknown fate. And the worst part? A small, treacherous part of me felt relief. At least the waiting was over. Alessio didn't speak again. He simply watched the city blur past, his expression unreadable. His hand rested on the seat between us, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his skin. I looked away. The rain fell harder, drumming against the roof like tiny fists. When the car finally stopped, we were in front of iron gates flanked by stone walls. Beyond them, a mansion rose from the darkness, all sharp angles and glowing windows, beautiful and terrifying. The gates opened. Alessio turned to me, his gray eyes holding mine. "Welcome home, Elena," he said quietly. "You belong to me now." The mansion swallowed me whole. Alessio led me through corridors that seemed to stretch endlessly, our footsteps echoing against marble floors. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, casting fractured light across oil paintings of stern-faced men in military uniforms. Ancestors, I assumed. Men who'd built empires on blood. I tried to memorize the route left past the grand staircase, right through a gallery lined with sculptures, but everything blurred together. Wealth I couldn't comprehend, beauty that felt like a trap. We stopped before a heavy wooden door. Alessio pushed it open and stepped aside. "Your room." I walked past him slowly, my breath catching. The space was enormous. A 4-poster bed dominated the center, draped in silk the color of champagne. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked manicured gardens that disappeared into darkness. A fireplace crackled softly in the corner, filling the air with the scent of burning cedar. It was beautiful. It was also a cage. "The closet is stocked," Alessio said from the doorway. "Bathroom through there. If you need anything, press the button beside the bed. Someone will come." I turned to face him. "What happens now?" He studied me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "Now you rest. We'll discuss the terms tomorrow." "Terms?" The word tasted bitter. "I'm property. What terms are there to discuss?" Something flashed across his face. Surprise, maybe, or respect. It vanished before I could name it. "You're not property, Elena." His voice dropped lower. "You're payment. There's a difference." "I don't see one." He stepped into the room, and instinctively, I backed away. He noticed. He stopped. "Your father owed $5 million to some very dangerous people," he said quietly. "People who would have sold you to far worse men than me. Men who would have broken you in ways you can't imagine. I bought you to keep you alive." "How generous," I whispered. His jaw tightened. "I didn't say I was generous. I said I kept you alive. Don't confuse the two." We stared at each other across the expensive room. The firelight painted shadows across his face, softening the hard lines but not the coldness in his eyes. "Why?" I asked. "Why spend $5 million on a stranger?" I had my reasons. "That's not an answer." "No," he agreed. "It's not." He moved to leave, then paused at the threshold. "The door locks from the inside. Use it if you want, but understand there are guards in the hallway, cameras in the gardens, and gates that won't open without my authorization. You're safe here, Elena, but you're also mine." The door closed softly behind him. I stood frozen, listening to his footsteps fade. Then my legs gave out, and I sank onto the edge of the bed, pressing my hands against my face. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't give this place that power. Instead, I stood and walked to the windows. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the gardens glistening under moonlight. Somewhere beyond those walls was the city. My old life, my tiny apartment, with its peeling wallpaper and broken radiator. My father, probably drinking himself unconscious by now, relieved that his problem had been solved. I hated him. God, I hated him so much it burned. But I hated myself more for the small, shameful part of me that felt grateful to be here. In this beautiful prison, with its soft sheets and warm fire, instead of wherever those other men would have taken me. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. "Come in," I called. Expecting a servant, the door opened, and a woman entered early 50s, with silver-streaked hair pulled into a tight bun. She carried a tray with tea and pastries. "Good evening, Miss Elena," she said, her accent similar to Alessio's. "I'm Rosa. I manage the household." She set the tray on a small table near the fireplace, then turned to face me with sharp, assessing eyes. "You look exhausted," she observed. "When did you last eat?" I couldn't remember. "This morning, maybe." She gestured to the tray. "Eat, then sleep. Tomorrow will be difficult enough without starving yourself. I sat slowly, surprised by her directness. Difficult how? Rosa poured the tea with practiced efficiency. Mr. Marchetti has enemies. Many enemies. You're here now, which means you're part of his world. That makes you a target. My stomach dropped. I didn't ask for this. No one asks for this life. She handed me the cup. But here you are. So you'll learn. Quickly, I sipped the tea chamomile, honey, and felt some of the tension ease from my shoulders. How long have you worked for him? Since he was a boy. I knew his father. His grandfather. Her expression softened slightly. The Marchetti family has always been complicated. Mafia, I said flatly. Rosa's eyes met mine. Yes, at least she didn't lie. What does he want from me? I asked quietly. Really? She was silent for a moment, arranging the pastries as if the question required careful consideration. I don't know, she finally admitted. But Mr. Marchetti doesn't act without purpose. If he spent $5 million on you, he has a plan. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. She moved toward the door, then paused. One piece of advice. Miss Elena, don't underestimate him. He seems cold, controlled. But underneath, she trailed off, choosing her words carefully. Underneath, he feels everything. He's just very good at hiding it. Before I could respond, she was gone. I finished the tea in silence, then stood and locked the door. The click echoed through the room. I changed into a nightgown I found in the closet silk. Expensive, definitely not mine, and crawled beneath the covers. The bed was impossibly soft. The fire crackled. Rain started again outside, gentle against the windows. I should have been terrified. I was terrified, but as I closed my eyes, the last thought that drifted through my mind wasn't fear. It was the way Alessio had looked at me in the car, his gray eyes holding something I couldn't name, like he'd been searching for me, like he'd finally found what he'd been looking for. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. For a disorienting moment, I forgot where I was. Then memory crashed back the auction. The car, Alessio's voice saying, "You belong to me now," and my chest tightened. I sat up slowly, taking in the room in daylight. Everything looked even more excessive than it had last night. The paintings on the walls were originals. The rug beneath the bed was hand-woven silk. Even the damn soap in the bathroom probably cost more than my monthly rent. A soft knock interrupted my observations. "Miss Elena?" Rosa's voice filtered through the door. "Mr. Marchetti requests your presence for breakfast." Requests. As if I had a choice. "I'll be down in 20 minutes, I called back. The closet held more clothes than I'd owned in my entire life. I chose the simplest option, dark jeans, a cream sweater, and braided my hair over one shoulder. No makeup, no jewelry. I wouldn't perform femininity for him. Rosa waited in the hallway, her expression neutral. This way. She led me through different corridors than last night, down a curved staircase into a sunlit breakfast room. Windows overlooked the gardens, where morning light turned dewdrops into scattered diamonds. A long table dominated the space, but only 2 places were set, one at the head, one to its right. Alessio stood by the windows, phone pressed to his ear. He wore black slacks and a white shirt rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle. His hair was damp, recently showered. He looked up when I entered. His eyes tracked over me, slowly assessing. Not leering, then he ended his call without goodbye. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair beside him. I remained standing. I'd prefer to stand. His mouth curved slightly. Not quite a smile. Something sharper. "I'm sure you would. Sit anyway." We stared at each other. I counted to 10 in my head, weighing my options. Then I sat. Small rebellions were pointless here. I needed to save my strength for battles that mattered. Rosa appeared with coffee, fruit, pastries. The food looked perfect, arranged like art. I reached for the coffee instead, needing something bitter to match my mood. Alessio sat across from me, his movements controlled and precise. He didn't touch the food. He just watched me. "Did you sleep?" he asked. "Eventually. Rosa said you locked the door. You said I could." "I did." He poured himself coffee, black, no sugar. "I'm glad you used it. Shows you're thinking clearly." I set down my cup harder than necessary. "What do you want from me, Alessio?" He didn't flinch at my directness. If anything, he seemed pleased by it. "Several things." He leaned back in his chair, studying me with those unsettling gray eyes. First, I need you to understand your situation. You're no longer Elena Volkov, struggling university graduate. You're Elena Marchetti. I'm not taking your name, I interrupted. You already have. Legally. I filed the paperwork last night. My blood went cold. You what? Married you. On paper only. Obviously. He said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather. It protects you. My enemies won't touch you if they think you're my wife. My allies will extend the same courtesy. It also resolves your father's debt entirely. I couldn't breathe. You can't marry someone without their consent. I can when I own the judges. He took a slow sip of coffee. And before you spiral, understand this. The marriage is a shield, Elena. Nothing more. I'm not asking you to share my bed or play house, but you will share my name, my home, and my protection. Why? The word came out raw. Why go this far? He was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming once against the table, the first sign of restlessness I'd seen from him. Because 3 weeks ago, someone close to me was taken, he said finally. Tortured, killed. They used her to send me a message about what happens when I move against the Bella Vista family. His voice didn't change, but something dark flickered across his face. She was innocent. She wasn't part of this world. But they killed her anyway because she mattered to me. My stomach twisted. I'm sorry. Don't be. He met my eyes. Be smart. The Bella Vistas think I'm vulnerable now. Weakened by grief. They'll be watching for my next move, looking for another pressure point. So I gave them one. Understanding dawned slowly, sickeningly. Me. You. He nodded. But here's what they don't know. You're not a weakness. You're bait. I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping against marble. You're using me to draw them out. Yes. At least he didn't lie. And when they come for me? My voice shook. When they decide to send you another message written in my blood. Alessio stood smoothly, closing the distance between us. I backed against the window, but he didn't touch me. He just stood close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. Smell cedar and something darker, gunpowder. Maybe. They won't get that far, he said quietly. I have 12 guards on this property. Surveillance that would make intelligence agencies jealous. And me. His jaw tightened. No one touches what's mine, Elena. No one. I'm not yours, I whispered. Legally, you are. He raised one hand slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers were warm, gentle. The gesture felt more intimate than it should. But if it helps you sleep at night, keep telling yourself that. He stepped back, breaking the spell. Rosa will show you the rest of the house today, he said, his voice returning to that controlled tone. Learn the layout, learn the guards' faces, and tonight, we have dinner with the Rossi family allies who need to believe this marriage is real. I don't know how to act like a mafia wife. Then learn quickly. He picked up his phone, dismissing me. You have 8 hours. I stood there, trembling with rage and fear and something else I couldn't name. Then I turned and left before I said something that would get me killed. Rosa spent the afternoon turning me into someone I didn't recognize. The dress was midnight blue, cut low enough to suggest without revealing. Diamonds glittered at my throat, borrowed, Rosa assured me, though they felt like a collar. My hair fell in soft waves, my makeup subtle but flawless. I looked like I belonged in Alessio's world. I hated it. Remember, Rosa said, fastening the clasp of the necklace. The Rossi family has been allied with the Marchettis for 3 generations. But alliances in this world are fragile. They'll be watching you, testing you, looking for weakness. What happens if they find it? Her hands stilled on my shoulders. Then Alessio's enemies will know exactly where to strike. A knock at the door. Rosa opened it to reveal Alessio, and my breath caught despite myself. He wore a black suit that looked hand-stitched, a crisp white shirt, no tie. His dark hair was swept back, and those gray eyes tracked over me slowly, missing nothing. You look acceptable, he said. Acceptable. I wanted to throw something at him. Instead, I smiled coldly. You look like a criminal. Rosa made a small sound, shock or amusement. I couldn't tell. But Alessio's mouth curved into something almost genuine. Good, he said. You're learning. He offered his arm. I took it, feeling the solid muscle beneath the expensive fabric. The car ride was silent. Alessio's driver navigated through the city while I watched streetlights blur past, trying to calm my racing heart. Alessio sat beside me, scrolling through his phone, completely relaxed. What do I need to know about the Rossis? I asked finally. He glanced up. Antonio Rossi runs their operations. His wife, Gabriella, runs him. They have 2 sons, Marco, the heir, and Luca, the disappointment. Be polite to Antonio, charming to Gabriella, and careful around Marco. Why careful? Because he wanted to marry into the Marchetti family. Alessio's eyes met mine. And now I've brought home a wife he's never heard of. It will complicate things. Perfect. Just perfect. The Rossi estate rivaled Alessio's in grandeur, all marble columns and fountain courtyards. We were greeted at the door by a man in his 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes. Antonio Rossi. Alessio. He embraced Alessio like a son, then turned those calculating eyes on me. And this must be the bride we've heard so much about. Elena, Alessio said smoothly, his hand finding the small of my back. The touch burned through the thin fabric of my dress. My wife. I extended my hand. Antonio kissed it, European style, his gaze never leaving my face. Enchanted, he murmured. Though I must admit, your marriage came as quite a surprise. Love often does, I said, forcing warmth into my voice. Alessio's fingers pressed slightly against my spine, approval or warning. I couldn't tell. We were led into a dining room that could seat 30. A woman in her 50s rose from the table, Gabriella, draped in emeralds and silk. She kissed both my cheeks, her perfume overwhelming. How romantic, she said, but her eyes were ice. A whirlwind courtship. When you know, Alessio replied, pulling out my chair. 2 younger men entered the sons. Marco was handsome in a polished way, his suit immaculate, his smile not reaching his eyes. Luca looked bored, already half drunk. Dinner was a performance. 7 courses of exquisite food I could barely taste. Wine that cost more than cars. Conversation that danced around the real topics territory, money, blood. I smiled when expected, laughed at appropriate moments. Let Alessio's hand rest possessively on my thigh beneath the table. It felt like drowning in slow motion. So tell us, Elena, Gabriella said over dessert, her voice honey-sweet. How did you and Alessio meet? The table went quiet. Every eye turned to me. I felt Alessio tense beside me, waiting. At a gallery, I said smoothly, the lie forming as I spoke. I was admiring a Caravaggio. He told me I was standing too close to truly see it. We argued about perspective for 20 minutes before he asked for my number. Antonio laughed. That sounds like Alessio, always correcting people. I was right, Alessio said dryly, his thumb stroking once against my leg, a reward. She was standing too close. And yet you still married her, Marco said. His tone was light, but something sharp lurked beneath it. After knowing her for what, 2 months? 3 weeks, Alessio corrected, his voice cooling. When something belongs to you, Marco, you claim it. Quickly, the word belong sent ice down my spine. Marco's jaw tightened. How modern, how possessive, Gabriella added, but she was smiling now. I approve. A Marchetti man should be possessive of his wife. The conversation shifted, but I felt Marco's gaze on me throughout the rest of dinner, calculating, hungry. Finally, mercifully, we said our goodbyes. Antonio embraced Alessio again, whispering something in Italian I couldn't catch. Alessio's expression didn't change. In the car, I exhaled shakily. You did well, Alessio said. Marco hates me. Marco hates everyone who isn't Marco. He loosened his collar, and I glimpsed a tattoo curling up his neck, something in Latin. But he believes we're real. That's what matters. Are we? The question escaped before I could stop it. Real? Alessio turned to me, and in the darkness of the car, his eyes looked almost black. We're as real as we need to be, he said quietly. On paper, in public, in front of my enemies, we're husband and wife. What we are in private, he trailed off. That's still being written. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire demeanor shifted, shoulders tensing, jaw hardening. What? I asked. The Bella Vista's just made a move. He texted rapidly, then looked at me. We need to get you home. Now. What kind of move? The kind that means they know about you. The car accelerated, and my heart climbed into my throat. The hunt had begun, and I was the prey. The mansion was on lockdown when we arrived. Guards flanked every entrance, their faces hard, weapons visible. Alessio's hand stayed pressed against my lower back as he guided me through the front door, his body positioned between me and every shadow. Rosa, he called out. She appeared immediately, her expression grim. The perimeter is secure. No breaches detected. Get her upstairs. The east wing, 3rd floor. Stay with her until I come back. Where are you going? I asked. But he was already moving toward his study, phone pressed to his ear, barking orders in rapid Italian. Rosa's hand closed around my wrist. Come, now. She pulled me up the stairs, moving faster than I thought possible for a woman her age. We climbed past the 2nd floor, into a wing I hadn't seen during my tour. The hallways here were narrower, more austere. She stopped at a door that looked like all the others, pressed her palm against a hidden scanner. The lock clicked. Inside was a room I'd seen in movies, but never believed existed in real life. Reinforced walls, no windows, monitors showing every angle of the property, a small kitchenette, a bathroom, a bed, everything needed to survive a siege. A panic room. Sit, Rosa ordered, already moving to the monitors. I sank onto the bed, my hands shaking. What's happening? The Bella Vistas sent a message to one of our warehouses. A body. Her voice was matter-of-fact, clinical. One of Alessio's mid-level captains. They carved your name into his chest. The room tilted. My name? They know who you are. They know you matter to him. She glanced back at me, her expression softening slightly. Or they think you do, which is the same thing in this world. I pressed my hands against my face, breathing through the nausea. Someone died because of me. Someone died because the Bella Vistas are animals, Rosa corrected sharply. Don't take on their sins, Elena. You didn't choose this. Neither did that man. She had no answer for that. We sat in silence, watching the monitors. Guards patrolled the grounds in pairs. Lights swept across the gardens. Everything looked calm, controlled, but I could feel the danger pressing against the walls like a living thing. An hour passed. Then 2. Rosa made tea. I couldn't drink it. Finally, the door opened. Alessio entered, and my breath caught at the sight of him. Blood spattered his collar. His knuckles were split, raw, but his face was eerily calm. Leave us, he told Rosa. She hesitated, then obeyed. The door clicked shut, and we were alone. Alessio moved to the sink, washing blood from his hands with methodical precision. I watched the pink water swirl down the drain. Whose blood is that? My voice came out smaller than I wanted. Mine, mostly. He dried his hands, then turned to face me. Some belonged to a Bella Vista soldier we caught on the east perimeter. He won't be reporting back. The casual way he said it made my stomach lurch. You killed him. Yes. No justification. No apology. Just fact. I stood slowly, anger cutting through my fear. A man died tonight because you used me as bait. You knew this would happen. I knew they'd make a move eventually. He leaned against the counter, and I noticed how exhausted he looked beneath the control. I didn't know it would be tonight. Does that make it better? No. His eyes met mine. But it makes it strategic. Strategic, I repeated bitterly. Is that what you call murder in your world? Something flickered across his face too fast to name. In my world, Elena, you kill or you die. There's no middle ground, no moral high road. There's only survival. I didn't ask to survive like this. Neither did I. The words came out harder than he seemed to intend. He ran a hand through his hair, disturbing the careful styling. You think I wanted this life? This constant war? I was 12 years old when I watched my uncle gut my father's best friend at the dinner table. 14 when I made my first kill. By 16, I understood that love is a weakness people use to destroy you. He moved closer, and I should have backed away. I didn't. So yes, he continued, his voice dropping to something raw and dangerous. I used you as bait. I married you without your consent. I brought you into a war you didn't start. But I also gave you the Marchetti name, which means something in this city. I gave you guards who will die before they let anyone touch you. And I gave you me. You, I whispered. What does that mean? He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and cupped my face with one hand. His palm was warm, calloused, the touch impossibly gentle for a man with blood on his collar. It means I don't lose what's mine, he said quietly. Ever. We stood there, inches apart, his thumb brushing along my cheekbone. I could feel his breath, see the flecks of silver in his gray eyes, smell cedar and copper, and something uniquely him. I'm not yours, I said, but it came out breathless, uncertain. Keep telling yourself that. His gaze dropped to my mouth, lingered, then returned to my eyes. Eventually, you might even believe it, he stepped back, breaking the moment, and the cold rushed in where his warmth had been. "You'll sleep here tonight," he said, his voice returning to that controlled tone. "I'll be in the monitoring room next door. If anything happens, I'll know. And tomorrow? Tomorrow we adjust our strategy. The Bellavistas made their move. Now we make ours." He walked to the door, then paused with his hand on the handle. "Elena? Yes? Thank you." I blinked. For what? For not falling apart. Something almost like respect crossed his face. Most people would have. You didn't. Then he was gone, leaving me alone in the reinforced room with my racing heart and the ghost of his touch still burning against my skin. I lay down on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Somewhere in this mansion, a man with blood on his hands was watching monitors to keep me safe. And God help me, I was starting to trust him. I woke to darkness and the smell of coffee. For a disorienting second, I forgot where I was. Then memory returned the panic room, the blood, Alessio's hand against my face, and I sat up quickly. A figure sat in the corner, barely visible in the glow from the monitors. "Easy," Alessio said quietly. "It's just me." My heart was already racing. "What time is it?" 3 a.m. He stood, moving into the light. He'd changed clothes, black t-shirt, dark jeans, and his hair was damp again. "I thought you might want this." He handed me a mug. The coffee was black, bitter, exactly what I needed. "You've been watching me sleep?" I asked. "I've been watching the perimeter. You just happened to be in the room." But something in his tone suggested otherwise. I sipped the coffee, studying him over the rim. He looked different like this, less controlled, more human. The exhaustion showed in the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. "Did you sleep at all?" I asked. "Sleep is a luxury I can't afford right now. That's not sustainable." His mouth curved slightly. "Are you concerned about me, Elena?" "I'm concerned about being protected by someone too tired to think straight." "Fair." He sat on the edge of the bed, keeping careful distance between us. "But I've functioned on less sleep during worse situations. I'll manage." We sat in companionable silence, drinking coffee while monitors flickered in the background. It felt oddly intimate, this quiet moment in the dead of night, when the rest of the world slept, and we were the only ones awake. "Can I ask you something?" I said finally. "You can ask. I may not answer." "The woman the Bellavistas killed, the one you mentioned at breakfast." I set down my mug. "Who was she?" His jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't respond. "Her name was Sophia," he said quietly. "She worked at a gallery I own. We'd see each other occasionally, coffee, conversation, nothing serious. But she made me laugh, which doesn't happen often in this life." "You cared about her." "I thought I was being careful." He stared at his hands. "I never went to her apartment. Never let her come here. We met in public places, kept everything casual. But the Bellavistas have eyes everywhere. They saw, they waited. And when they wanted to hurt me," he didn't finish. He didn't need to. "I'm sorry," I said softly. "Don't be smart." His eyes met mine. "That's why I did this. The marriage, the public display. If they think you're just another Sophia, they'll come for you the same way. But if they believe you're truly mine, that I'd burn the city down for you," he trailed off, "then maybe they'll think twice. Or maybe they'll just try harder. Maybe." He stood, moving to the window, or where a window would be if this room had them. "But at least you'll know what's coming. At least you'll be prepared." I watched him, this man who spoke about violence like weather patterns, who'd killed tonight without hesitation, who somehow made me feel safer than I'd felt in years. "Why are you really telling me this?" I asked. He was quiet for a long moment. "Because you deserve to know what you're caught in," he said finally. "And because..." He turned, and something vulnerable flickered across his face. "Because I'm tired of lying. To everyone. To myself." "What are you lying about?" "About why I bought you." The confession came out rough, reluctant. I told myself it was strategy, protection, a way to draw out my enemies, and it is all those things. But the truth is, when I saw you on that platform, terrified and defiant and trying so hard not to show it. He moved closer, and I could see the conflict in his eyes. I saw someone who hadn't been broken by this world yet, someone who still had fire. My breath caught. "Alessio, I know it's selfish," he continued, as if he needed to finish before he lost the courage. I know I had no right to drag you into my war. But I couldn't leave you there, Elena. I couldn't let them extinguish that light in your eyes. He stood inches away now, and the air between us felt charged with something dangerous and inevitable. You barely know me, I whispered. I know you locked your door the first night but didn't run. I know you faced the Rossis without flinching. I know you're angry and scared and you have every right to hate me, but you're still here, still fighting. His hand came up slowly, brushing a strand of hair from my face. I know enough. This is insane, probably. His thumb traced along my jaw, and I shivered despite myself. But insanity seems to be my specialty. I should have pulled away. Should have reminded him that I wasn't his, that this was all pretend, that he'd bought me like property. Instead, I leaned into his touch. I don't trust you, I said. Good. You shouldn't. I don't even like you. I believe that even less. His other hand came up, cradling my face between his palms. But you feel this too, don't you? This thing between us that has nothing to do with strategy or protection or any rational thought. I did. God help me, I did. What happens now? I breathed. His forehead came to rest against mine, and we stood there in the dim light, breathing the same air, suspended in a moment that felt stolen from the chaos outside. Now, he whispered. We stop pretending this is just business. His lips brushed mine, barely a kiss, more like a question. I answered by closing the distance between us. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, as if we were both surprised by our own surrender. Then his hands tightened in my hair, and everything shifted. Desperate, inevitable, dangerous. We pulled apart slowly, and his eyes were darker than I'd ever seen them. Elena, he said hoarsely. If we do this— I know, I interrupted. No promises, no guarantees, just this, he agreed, and kissed me again like he was drowning and I was air. Morning came too quickly. I woke alone in the panic room, the sheets beside me still warm. Alessio's scent lingered on the pillow cedar in something darker, and the memory of last night crashed over me. His hands in my hair, his mouth on mine, the way he'd whispered my name like a prayer. We'd kissed for what felt like hours, standing in that reinforced room while the world tried to kill us. But he hadn't pushed for more. He'd pulled back eventually, pressed his forehead to mine, and said, "Not like this. Not while you're scared." Then he'd left me to sleep, and I'd lain awake wondering what the hell I was doing. Rosa appeared with breakfast and a knowing look. "Mr. Marchetti is in his study. He asked that you join him when you're ready." "How ready do I need to be?" Her mouth twitched. "That depends on what happened last night." I felt heat crawl up my neck. "Nothing happened." "Of course not." But her eyes said otherwise. I dressed quickly, black pants, simple white blouse, and braided my hair. No armor today. No performance. Just me, walking toward whatever came next. Alessio's study was all dark wood and leather, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with volumes in multiple languages. He stood behind a massive desk, studying something on his laptop. He looked up when I entered, and for a moment, his expression softened. Then he gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Sit." The warmth vanished. This was business. Alessio cold, controlled, dangerous. I sat. He turned the laptop toward me. On the screen was a photograph, grainy but clear enough. It showed me and Alessio outside the Rossi estate last night, his hand on my back, our heads tilted together in conversation. "The Bellavistas had someone watching the dinner," he said. "This photo was delivered to 3 different crime families this morning, along with a message." "What message?" "That Alessio Marchetti's new wife is fair game." His voice was flat, emotionless. "That anyone who wants to earn favor with the Bellavistas should consider you a target." The room tilted. They put a price on my head, essentially. Yes. I stared at the photograph, at the woman in the blue dress who looked so comfortable in that world, who had no idea she was being hunted even then. So what now? My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Do I hide in the panic room forever?" "No." Alessio closed the laptop with controlled precision. "Now we show them exactly what happens when someone threatens what's mine." "I thought we established I'm not Elena." He cut me off, his eyes blazing. "After last night, after what I told you, are we really still pretending?" Heat flooded my face. "Last night was real," he interrupted. "It was real, and they know it. Look." He pulled out his phone, showed me another photo. This one was different, taken through the panic room's window somehow, showing Alessio and me in profile, his hands cradling my face, The moment before our first kiss, my blood ran cold. Someone was inside the house. No, this was taken with a telephoto lens from the East Ridge, half a mile away. His jaw clenched, which means they have equipment I didn't account for, which means I failed to protect you. You couldn't have known. I should have. He slammed his hand on the desk, the sudden violence making me flinch. I should have anticipated this. I should have kept you safer. I stood slowly, moved around the desk. He watched me approach with wary eyes. You can't control everything, I said quietly. In my world, if you don't control everything, people die. I'm not dead. Not yet. The words came out raw. But they have this photo, Elena. They have proof that you matter to me. Not as strategy, not as bait, as something more. And that's worse. Much worse. He turned away, gripping the edge of the desk. Because now they know exactly how to destroy me. I reached out, placed my hand over his. His skin was warm, his knuckles still healing from last night's violence. Then maybe we destroy them first, I said. He looked at me sharply. What? You said we'd show them what happens when they threaten what's yours. I squeezed his hand. So show them. But let me help. Absolutely not. You're not getting anywhere near. I'm already near it, Alessio. I'm in it. They've made sure of that. I moved closer, until we were inches apart. You said I still had fire, so let me use it. Something shifted in his expression, surprise, respect, desire, fear, all tangled together. You have no idea what you're asking, he said quietly. Then tell me, show me. I lifted my chin, meeting his eyes. I'm tired of being protected. I want to fight back. He stared at me for a long moment, his gray eyes searching mine for something I couldn't name. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire demeanor changed. Fuck. What? The Bella Vistas just made their next move. He was already typing, his fingers flying across the screen. They've taken one of our warehouses, killed 3 guards, and left another message. What does it say? He turned the phone toward me. The message was simple, written in blood across a warehouse wall. Bring us the wife. Below it, a time. 8 p.m. tonight. Below that, an address. It's a trap, I said. Obviously. You're not seriously considering. I'm not considering anything. He grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. Because you're not going anywhere near that warehouse. Alessio. No. He cupped my face, the tenderness at odds with the violence in his eyes. I told you I don't lose what's mine. That includes you. Especially you. He kissed me hard and fast, then pulled away. Rosa will take you back to the panic room. Stay there until I return. And if you don't return? Something dark and determined crossed his face. Then burn this city down looking for whoever killed me. He left before I could respond. And I stood alone in his study, staring at the blood-written message. 8 hours until the trap sprung. 8 hours to decide if I was prey or predator. I didn't go to the panic room. Rosa tried. She stood outside Alessio's study, arms crossed, expression stern. Mr. Marchetti gave explicit orders. Mr. Marchetti doesn't own me. I pushed past her, heading toward my room. Elena, please. I'm not hiding while he walks into a death trap, Rosa. She grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. You think you can help him? You'll only distract him. Get him killed. The words hit harder than she meant them to. But I shook her off anyway. Then I'll have to make sure I don't distract him. In my room, I changed quickly. Dark jeans, black sweater, boots. I pulled my hair into a tight bun and stared at my reflection. I looked terrified. Good. Fear kept you sharp. I found what I needed in Alessio's study, a loaded handgun in his desk drawer, security protocols on his computer. The warehouse address burned into my memory. Getting past the guards was easier than it should have been. They were focused on the perimeter, watching for threats coming in. Not the wife trying to get out. I slipped through a service entrance Rosa had shown me during the house tour, moved through the gardens, staying low, and reached the back wall where the cameras had a blind spot. Scaling it nearly broke me. My arms screamed. My hands bled. But I made it over, dropped into the alley beyond, and started running. The warehouse district was industrial decay, rusted buildings, broken windows, shadows that moved with intent. I checked the address 3 times, my heart hammering. 7:47 p.m., 13 minutes until the deadline. I circled the building, staying in darkness. Alessio's cars were already there, 3 black SUVs parked strategically. I counted at least 8 guards positioned around the perimeter, But the Bella Vistas had more. I spotted them on rooftops, in doorways, behind shipping containers. At least 20 men, heavily armed, waiting. This wasn't a negotiation. It was an execution. I pulled out the gun with shaking hands. I'd never fired one before, never even held one until today. But I'd watched enough movies, right? God, I was going to die here. The warehouse door opened. Alessio emerged, flanked by 4 guards. Even from this distance, I could see the tension in his shoulders, the controlled violence in every movement. He walked straight toward the warehouse entrance like he owned the world. A man stepped out to meet him, tall, silver-haired, expensive suit. Even without introduction, I knew who he was. Lorenzo Bellavista, the head of the family, their voices carried in the quiet night. Alessio Marchetti, Lorenzo said, his accent thick. How kind of you to accept my invitation. You wanted to talk. I'm here. Talk. Where is your lovely wife? Somewhere you'll never find her. Lorenzo smiled. You misunderstand. I don't want to find her. I want you to bring her to me. Willingly. On your knees. Alessio's laugh was cold. I'd burn before I kneel to you. That can be arranged. The gunshot came from nowhere. One of Alessio's guards dropped, blood blooming across his chest. Chaos erupted, weapons drawn, shouting. More gunfire. Alessio dove behind a concrete barrier, returning fire with deadly precision. His remaining guards scattered, trying to establish position. But the Bellavistas had the numbers, the high ground. They were being slaughtered. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Could only watch as Alessio took a bullet to the shoulder, spun, kept firing. He was going to die. They were all going to die. Unless. I ran before my brain could stop me. Ran toward the warehouse, gun raised, screaming like a madwoman. Stop! I'm here! I'm the one you want. Everything froze. 20 guns turned toward me. Lorenzo's eyes widened. And Alessio looked at me with absolute rage and absolute terror. Elena, run! He roared. I ignored him. Walked forward on trembling legs, gun pointed at Lorenzo. You wanted me, I said, my voice shaking but loud. Here I am. Let them go. Lorenzo studied me with cold amusement. The little wife. How touching. And stupid. Maybe. But I'm betting you want me alive more than you want them dead. I steadied the gun. Otherwise this whole trap was pointless. His smile widened. Smart girl. Yes. Alive is preferable. But not required. He raised his hand, and I knew with absolute certainty that he was about to signal my death. The gunshot came from behind me. Lorenzo stumbled, blood spreading across his chest. He looked down in shock, then collapsed. I spun. Alessio stood there, gun raised, his face a mask of fury. Blood soaked his shoulder, but his hand was steady. Nobody, he said quietly, touches my wife. Then hell broke loose. The Bellavistas opened fire. Alessio grabbed me, dragged me behind the barrier. Bullets shredded the air where we'd stood. What the fuck were you thinking? He shouted over the gunfire. Saving your life. By offering yourself as a sacrifice? By creating a distraction. He stared at me, bleeding and furious and somehow still beautiful. Then he kissed me hard, tasting like copper and rage. If we survive this, he breathed against my mouth, I'm going to kill you myself. Get in line. His guards rallied, pushing forward. More SUVs arrived, reinforcements. The tide was turning, but Lorenzo's body was gone. Someone had dragged him away during the chaos. Is he dead? I asked. Not yet. Alessio's jaw clenched. But he will be. We fought our way to the vehicles, bodies dropping around us. I fired the gun twice, missed both times, but the noise was enough to make people duck. Finally, we were moving, speeding away from the warehouse, sirens wailing in the distance. Alessio pulled me against him with his good arm, his heart hammering against my back. Don't ever do that again, he said roughly. Which part? Any of it. All of it. He pressed his face into my hair. Christ, Elena, when I saw you standing there, I know. I gripped his hand. I know. We drove through the night toward safety that didn't exist, covered in blood that wasn't all ours, bound together by violence, and something that felt dangerously like love. The safe house was a penthouse across the city, minimalist, sterile, designed for disappearing. Alessio's guards swept the apartment while I helped him onto the couch. Blood soaked through his shirt, spreading dark and wet across the fabric. I need to see the wound, I said. It's fine. You've been shot. It's not fine. He looked at me with exhausted eyes. Elena, take off your shirt. Alessio. Something flickered across his face at the command in my tone. But he obeyed, unbuttoning slowly with his good hand. I helped ease the fabric off his injured shoulder, and my breath caught. The bullet had gone clean through, which Rosa had once told me was better than it staying lodged. But the wound was ugly torn flesh, still bleeding. First aid kit is in the bathroom, he said quietly. I found it quickly, returned with supplies I barely knew how to use. My hands shook as I cleaned the wound, and he hissed through his teeth but didn't pull away. I'm sorry, I whispered. For what? Saving my life? His good hand caught mine, stilling it. Or for making me feel things I swore I'd never feel again? I met his eyes. Both. Neither. I don't know anymore. That makes two of us. I finished bandaging him in silence, hyper-aware of every breath, every touch. When I was done, he didn't let go of my hand. I thought you were dead, I said. When that first guard went down, when you took that bullet, I thought I'd just watched you die, and that scared you, terrified me. I sat beside him carefully, avoiding his injury. Because somewhere between being bought and being hunted, I started caring whether you lived or died. And I hate that. I hate that you have that power over me. You think you don't have the same power over me? His laugh was bitter. Elena, when I saw you walk into that warehouse, offering yourself to save my life, I would have burned the entire city down. Everyone in it. I would have become the monster they all think I am just to keep you breathing. That's not love, Alessio. That's obsession. In my world, they're the same thing. He turned toward me, and the rawness in his eyes stole my breath. I told you I don't lose what's mine, but the truth is, I've already lost you. What? Because you were never really mine to begin with. He touched my face gently, his thumb brushing my cheekbone. I bought you. I forced you into this life. I made you a target. Everything between us is built on violence and lies and transactions. How could you ever truly be mine? The vulnerability in his voice cracked something open inside me. You're right, I said softly. I was never yours. Not when you bought me. Not when you married me on paper. Not even when you kissed me and made me feel things I shouldn't feel. His hand dropped. He started to pull away. I caught his wrist, held him still. But I could be, I continued. Not because you own me. Not because I'm trapped here. But because I choose it. His eyes widened slightly. Elena, I walked into that warehouse tonight. No one forced me. No one coerced me. I chose to risk my life for yours. I shifted closer, until our faces were inches apart. That's not obligation, Alessio. That's not strategy. That's something else entirely. You barely know me. I know you kill without hesitation but won't let anyone touch what you protect. I know you're terrified of being weak but you let me see your vulnerability anyway. I know you bought me to keep me safe, and somehow convinced yourself it was just business. I touched his face, mirroring his earlier gesture. I know enough. This is insane, he breathed. You said that before. It's still true. Then let's be insane together. He stared at me for a heartbeat longer. Then he kissed me. Not gentle this time. Not tentative. This was desperation and relief, and need all tangled together. His good arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me onto his lap. I went willingly, carefully avoiding his injured shoulder, my hands sliding into his hair. We kissed like we were making up for lost time. Like the world might end tomorrow and this was our last chance. His mouth moved to my jaw, my throat. Tell me to stop, he murmured against my skin. No, Elena, I'm giving you an out. I don't want an out. I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. I want this. I want you. Not because I'm scared or trapped or confused. Because I choose it. Because I choose you. Something in his expression shattered and rebuilt itself simultaneously. You're going to ruin me, he said hoarsely. Good. You've already ruined me. He kissed me again, softer this time, reverent. His hands moved over me with careful intensity, learning the shape of me, the feel of me. I helped him out of the rest of his clothes, mindful of his injury. He undressed me slowly, his eyes never leaving mine, as if asking permission with every touch. When we finally came together, it felt like surrender, like two people who'd been fighting the inevitable finally letting go. After, we lay tangled together on the couch, our breathing gradually slowing. His fingers traced patterns on my spine. This changes everything, he said quietly. I know. The Bellavistas will come harder now. Lorenzo survived, my men confirmed it. He'll want revenge. Let him come. I pressed a kiss to his collarbone. We'll face it together. His arm tightened around me. Together. We stayed like that as night deepened outside. Two broken people, holding each other in the darkness, trying to become whole. My phone buzzed. I'd forgotten I even had it. A text from an unknown number. Just a photo. Alessio and me, through the penthouse window. Tonight. Moments ago. Below it. Sweet dreams, Mrs. Marchetti. The Bellavistas were still watching. They'd never stopped. And they were closer than we thought. Alessio saw the photo and moved faster than I thought possible for an injured man. Get dressed. Now. We were clothed and armed in under 2 minutes. His guards burst through the door, weapons drawn. Perimeter breach, one of them reported. 3 hostiles on the roof, 2 in the stairwell. How the fuck did they find us? Alessio's voice was ice. I knew. God. I knew before anyone said it. My phone. I held it up, the photo still glowing on the screen. They've been tracking me this whole time. Alessio's jaw clenched, but he didn't waste time on anger. Marco, get her out through the service elevator. Take her to the harbor safe house. I'll handle. No. I stepped away from the guard he'd indicated. We're not splitting up. That's what they want. Elena, every time we separate, people die. Every time you try to protect me by pushing me away, they get closer. I grabbed his good arm. We end this together, or not at all. He stared at me, and I saw the war in his eyes, the instinct to protect versus the knowledge that I was right. Together, he said finally. But you stay behind me, always. We moved as a unit through the penthouse. Alessio's phone buzzed continuously, reports coming in from across the city. The Bellavistas weren't just hitting the safe house. They were hitting everything. 4 warehouses under attack, he said, his face grim. The East Docks. 2 of our shipping routes. They're trying to cripple us in one night, or distract you from the real target, I said. His eyes met mine. Understanding passed between us. Me, I continued. They want me. Everything else is just noise. Then we give them what they want. He pulled out his phone, typed rapidly. But on our terms, the plan formed quickly. Reckless, dangerous, exactly the kind of thing that would either end the war or get us both killed. Alessio would leak our location, the harbor safe house, and wait. But the trap would be reversed. His entire organization would converge on that location. Hidden, waiting. When the Bellavistas came for me, they'd walk into an ambush. And if it doesn't work? I asked as we descended in the service elevator. Then we die fighting. He kissed me hard. But at least we die together. The harbor safe house was a converted warehouse on the water, all exposed brick and industrial windows. Beautiful and defensible. Alessio positioned his men throughout the building in shadows, behind support beams, on the catwalks above. I stood in the center of the main floor, visible through the windows. Bait, again, but this time I was armed, trained by Alessio's guards in the car ride over. The gun felt less foreign in my hands now. I knew how to aim, how to breathe, how to squeeze the trigger instead of pulling. Alessio stayed close, his injured shoulder freshly bandaged, his eyes constantly scanning. They'll come soon, he said quietly. How do you know? Because if I wanted you dead, I wouldn't wait. Minutes stretched like hours. I counted my heartbeats, focused on my breathing, tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. Then the windows exploded inward. Glass rained down as armed men rappelled through the openings. Alessio shoved me behind a concrete pillar, returning fire. His guards emerged from hiding, and the warehouse became a war zone. I fired my gun once, twice, and someone fell. The realization that I'd just shot another human being hit me like a physical blow, but there was no time to process it. More Bellavistas poured in. Too many. Way too many. They brought everyone, Alessio shouted over the gunfire. This is their full force, which meant, if we won tonight, the Bellavista family was finished. If we lost, so were we. Lorenzo appeared in the doorway, flanked by guards, his chest bandaged but his eyes burning with rage. Marchetti, he roared. Enough hiding. Face me like a man. Alessio stepped out from cover, and my heart stopped. You want me? He called back. Come and get me. Lorenzo raised his gun, aiming straight at Alessio's heart. I moved without thinking. Stepped between them, my own gun raised, pointing at Lorenzo. You'll have to go through me first, I said. Lorenzo's laugh was ugly. Gladly, time slowed. I saw his finger tighten on the trigger. Saw Alessio reaching for me, trying to pull me back. Saw the muzzle flash. Then Alessio was in front of me, taking the bullet meant for my chest. He went down hard, blood spreading across his shirt. Not his shoulder this time, but his side. Dangerously close to vital organs. Something inside me broke. I fired. Again, until Lorenzo fell, until the gun clicked empty, until Alessio's guards surrounded us. The battle raged for another 10 minutes, but the Bellavistas were breaking, leaderless, panicked. Alessio's men pushed them back, out, into the night where more reinforcements waited. I dropped beside Alessio, my hands pressing against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding that wouldn't stop. "Don't you dare die," I sobbed. "Don't you fucking dare." His eyes fluttered open, gray and unfocused. "Did we win? I don't care. Stay with me. Elena." His hand found mine, slick with blood. "I love you. I should have said it before. I love." "Tell me later," I interrupted fiercely. "Tell me when you're not bleeding out on a warehouse floor. Tell me tomorrow and the day after and every day for the rest of our insane lives. But don't you dare say it like goodbye." His mouth curved into the smallest smile. "Bossy. You love it." "I do." His eyes closed. "I really do." Paramedics rushed in. They loaded him onto a stretcher while I held his hand, refusing to let go. In the ambulance, speeding through the city, I whispered against his knuckles. "You don't get to leave me. Not now. Not ever. We chose this. We chose each other. So you fight, Alessio Marchetti. You fight like hell." His fingers tightened weakly around mine, and I knew whatever came next, we'd face it together, the way it was always meant to be.